Now, story time with Jill C. Sarah and Jim had a secret. They had found an ancient alien treasure on another planet after many months of searching and traveling the galaxy for something fabulous. At last, they'd found a long-lost civilization. The explorers went back home to secure the rights to buy the planet so the money would unquestionably belong to them. However, when they returned, the treasure was gone. Sarah blamed Jim, and he denied being a thief. He accused her of selling their secret. The fight came to the point that they pulled guns on each other, and they would have fired had they not heard on the radio on their spacecraft that a terrible plague had struck their home planet. Depressed, they wondered what to do now. "Say," said Jim, "the treasure's gone for good. However, maybe there is still information and technology left that can be used to help our home." They found old computer archives and books and loaded everything on their ship that they could. When they got home, they turned the material over to scientists and researchers. It took a long time to translate and decipher, but finally, with new science forgotten eons ago, rediscovered, the plague was stopped. The explorers were now heroes. Hello everybody and welcome back to Rory Story Cubes. Now last times I had all my dice in this bag, and as you can see it's currently empty. That's because I'm making a new bag, or in the process of making a new bag, because this is too much dice for this one bag to hold. Now it was already quite crowded before, but last weekend I got some extra dice because I love the variation. For instance, I have the Animalia set, which is a bunch of animals and stuff like that. I also have the Fright set. I'm just going to take a look if I can find one. Which would be a fright dice. This one? No, that's not hypothetical, mythical one. Well, it's in here somewhere. Oh, wait, this might be one. I think it is. If I could get it out, I could show you. Anything frightening on this? Oh, here we go. Like a spider dripping down from the ceiling. That's the fright set. And this is the Animalia set, which also has like all sorts of other things. The related animals. This is a chicken coop, I think, so not just a random forest dwelling. Alright, and so on. So for today I'm going to be using this thing to keep them in, because there's just not enough space in my bag. I also don't have another bag available right now. Currently in the making. Today we're going to do it like this. So let's grab 9 of them and get going. There's just some dirt on my table that probably came along with the little tub I'm keeping it in. There we go. Now let's go pick 9 dice. Kind of rummaging under the table so it doesn't make too much noise. It's not quite the same as if you had them in a bag. Alright, here is, I think, 4 of them. Correct. There's Little Red Riding Hood. She keeps wanting to come out. And I need 5 more. This is 4, I think. Yes. And the last one is going to be you. There. Magic beans. Alright, the rest goes over here. Right, now of course like last time you should pause the video. Is this really 9? Yes it is. And look at the dice that I will have set up over here so you can make your own story. And make sure to post them in the comments below. Right, here we go. Oh yeah. Fingerprints. And waves. And a beehive by the looks of things. There we go. And a skull. That does not bode well. Oh yeah. A puzzle piece, and a wolf howling at the moon, a lock, a satellite dish, and a swan. So I'll pause the video here and try to think of something, post it in the comments below. Meanwhile, I'm going to take a look at what the heck I'm going to make out of this. Well, the best way to get any story going is just to get started, I suppose. But I don't really know how yet. Let's see. Let's start with a beehive. Why not? A beehive was hanging on a tree, and one day it fell down during the night. The wolf cried, and the reverberations of the sound of the incredible wolf cry. I don't know if you ever heard one live, but it really reverbs through the air, like the waves and all that sort of thing, sound waves. And it broke that really thin branch that it was hanging off of. It had already kind of torn in the last storm, and the wolf's cry was the last thing that it needed to fall down. But it did not fall down into the ground, oh no. It fell into the water, because it was near a river. So the hive, I couldn't find a word for a second, fell into the river and then drifted for a very long time until it encountered a swan, who wasn't quite sure what it was, because swans don't tend to normally see beehives. They don't really tend to see bees much, I suppose. Bees kind of zoom over the water occasionally, but they'd never actually encountered a hive before, so it was kind of puzzled. As a matter of fact, here it is. It was kind of puzzled. And it wondered what was inside there, but beehives, even the ones that are kind of cracked, they're a little bit hard to unlock, so she kept trying to pick at it, and it didn't quite break, but her interruptions and the fact that they were already kind of soggy and annoyed made the bees really angry, so they ended up stinging her to death, unfortunately, which was a bit of a problem, because it turned out that it was actually one of the queen's swans. I believe they're protected by the queen, right? We're in the UK now, apparently. And the queen wanted to know, she wanted the forensic research put out to find out who killed one of her precious swans. Because they did see this thing lying nearby, the dead swan, but they couldn't imagine that anything had happened with the bees, so that was unlikely to be a suspect. They even set out like a whole national TV program, sending out messages all across the UK and Wales and all that sort of thing. In Ireland, all those different places, Scotland too, because they hadn't yet left, to find out who did it, who was at London Thames River at that day and that night hour, and who saw the killer of the poor swan. Unfortunately, nobody knew, of course. Eventually they did arrest someone who looked suspicious, but it just turned out to be a homeless man who was slightly deranged, and started claiming that he had killed the swan out of revenge for the royal family and all that sort of thing, or maybe something to do with the November 5th revolution. No idea, he was making absolutely no sense. But they did lock him up because he turned out to be slightly annoying, I guess. Sometimes they do that when somebody's annoying. Not that he deserved it, but he was just locked up because that's how it works. So we ended up with a dead swan, and eventually this thing sank, and they all died as well because bees they're not very good swimmers, and they also can't breathe in the water. So ultimately we had a dead swan, a dead bee colony, and one guy in prison. And that was the story. The end. Well, that was number one. Not really sure if I like it myself, but that's just how things turn out sometimes. Sometimes you have the flimsiest of concepts to make a story, and sometimes they're really good. Not today though. That's okay though. If you liked it, that's great. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm still on the fence. Right, so that's these 9. I'm going to set them aside so I don't get them a second time. At least not during the second story. They will be included for the next one. I'm going to go back to grabbing some dice. Hang on. Oh. Trying not to drop the thing on the floor like I did a few minutes ago. Meaning I had to start all over again. That was so annoying. Alright, here we go. That's 5 of them. Once again, we have our turtle. And this is 3. And 4. There we go. Alrighty then, so this is a new bunch. Let's get started. Hope you liked the dramatic reading that I did of one of the stories that was submitted, or the story that was submitted. Because the very first story was submitted by Jill C, who has the basic set of dice, the first 9, and uses deck tet cards, I believe they said, to combine with actions, and I don't know if there's emotions, other things. Just things that make the story a little bit more interesting, so dice plus, I guess you could say. Meanwhile, I just have the dice. Let's roll these dice. And that looks like an imp. And this is, oops, imp just disappeared. He's not impish. This is a well. And these are 2 suspects, or 2 guys who happen to be not the same height. And once again, this place is back, the minaret place. Now let's roll the other 5. Yep. This is a bear in a cave, I think. This is a TV set with a heartbeat, maybe a heart monitor. This looks like a... what do you call those things? Spyglass? Not a spyglass. One of those things you enlarge stuff with. You know what I mean. This is a monkey on a branch, and this is a helicopter with a Red Cross on the side. It could be a Red Cross helicopter. Or it could just be a helicopter that somebody kidnapped. That used to belong to the Red Cross and not anymore. Fine. Now make sure to pause the video here so you can come up with your own story. I'm gonna get started on making my own story, which may contain some violence. Let's take a look what we can find. One day, two people wanted to go and explore the world, and for that they rented a helicopter. Not that the helicopters are particularly good for exploring the world, because they can only fly so far before they need to fuel and then go back. Or go back to refuel, the point of no return they call that. Still, they were able to explore a reasonable amount of space along the, or like outside of their hometown of Oblenskivich. I don't know where this is. And they found some interesting things, and what they brought back they would research. And occasionally, if they had enough interesting stuff, they would go out on TV and tell the people of the town about it, because the people of the town, they lived in really tall towers and they really didn't leave at all. They had everything they wanted. In the tower, they didn't need to go outside at all. It was one of those self-sustaining cities, not self-taining. Self-sustaining cities of the future. They didn't need to explore anything, and everything around their city became wild, because nobody was stopping them anymore. The creatures, that is. They had a monkey problem, and for that the people were asked, these two, to go out and see what the source of the monkeys was. And they weren't sure what to think of that, but still, they went out and took their helicopter once again, and they flew around until they thought they saw a clue, which was a well. So they landed near the well, and they wondered what could be down there. They didn't see any monkeys particularly around there, but they hadn't seen monkeys for a while, so I'm guessing that was like not a big deal. At least the well was the first thing they could identify as a point of interest outside in the jungle. So they landed there and they looked around. They didn't find any monkeys or traces of monkeys, but they did, however, see a very small creature with large ears. They weren't sure what it was, but apparently it could speak, because it asked them what they were doing there, what the heck that was that they came in and flying in on, and what was their purpose. And they explained that actually the people of the town, they had asked them to investigate all of these monkeys, and like, where are they coming from? What's the source? Well, says the little creature, who had introduced himself as an imp, I might know where that is, actually. You landed just by the source itself. It's right here. It's the water well. And they were like, oh really? That sounds really cool. What about it? What's interesting about it? So they went and investigated, and he said, well, you know, if you won't see anything on the outside. It's not a very interesting well, but the monkeys are really down there. Like, the monkey matriarch is at the bottom of the well. She's really big and she's very hairy. And currently she's asleep, so she doesn't exactly know that you're here. But if you can get her while she's sleeping, then all the monkeys will stop appearing, and your town will be safe once again from the monkey plague. So they thought that's a great idea. So they climbed down the well, because there was still a bucket light hanging there with a rope attached and all that sort of thing. And down there they found what looked like a really big monkey. At least it was big and hairy. But it wasn't a monkey at all. It turned out actually it was a bear. And with the intrusion, they woke up the bear, and the bear was not very happy. And the bear attacked them. And they were never heard from again. So Imp had his way, because he didn't like people at all. And the bear was his friend, and the bear hadn't eaten in a while, so those two were happy. People in town had no idea what was going on, because the monkeys just kept coming. And after a while, say 10 years, a documentary came out detailing the mystery of the two disappearing adventurers and their quest to find the source of the monkeys and how they had failed, sadly. Though nobody ever thought to consider the well, even though they did find a helicopter there, they never bothered to check. So they were long gone. So sad. Alright, so that's these 9. Hope you enjoyed that story. I'm going to put these aside. I'm not going to put these back as well as the others, so I can grab some different dice, because I'm noticing I'm getting a lot of the same dice each time. It's not that I don't try to grab other dice, but maybe in my attempt to grab other dice, I grab dice that I keep grabbing. Who knows, let's grab 9 other ones that I haven't yet used today. I shall grab these 4, 5 of them. Had that before as well. Of course, yeah, you will eventually get all the different dice anyway, because there are only so many dice to grab. And that's 4, so that's 9 together. Alright, good. Let's roll these guys and see what we get. I see the bowl of rice is back. There we go, this is the all-seeing eye right here. This is some guy who wants to maybe fight, or not really sure what is he doing. He might be trying to keep people away from him, actually. He's like, oh no. And this is a flashlight or alarm of some sort. This looks like a throne. Yes, it's a throne with 2 burning pyres next to it. Yep, and these are glasses. This is a thermometer, this is an amoeba, and this is somebody on a parachute, and this is TP. Alright, cool. So pause the video here to make up your own story. Make sure to post that below, and perhaps you'll also get a dramatic reading of the one that you submit, like the one that was submitted last week. Hope you enjoyed that, by the way. I shall continue with this story. Let's see how I'm gonna start. Let's see now, what do we have here? Let's start with the most obvious person. Once upon a time there was somebody who jumped out of a plane with a parachute. And they floated down. They weren't quite sure where they were because the plane had started to crash. So they had to make an emergency exit. And they weren't quite sure where they were because they knew they were somewhere between Austria and, say, Russia, somewhere along those lines. Like in the middle of nowhere. Actually, there weren't many places there for him that he recognized as towns. So he landed somewhere in the middle of a forest, a kind of forest, not a very dense forest, but it was some type of forest anyway. And he searched around a little bit for people. He went looking to see if he could find any roads or signs or anything he recognized, because he had like flown there before, but during the descent he lost his glasses, so he wasn't quite sure where he was, but he could see most things, just not much. Anyway, after a while, it got nighttime, so he decided to use his parachute and make a tent so he could spend the night at least somewhat covered. Though it was pretty cold, so it was not entirely comfortable. Either way, that also made it so that the amoeba that were living inside of his body that had previously been kept at bay by the man's immune system were now able to make him sick. So one morning he didn't feel so good, and combined with the fact that he had no longer had any vision because his glasses were gone, he was stumbling around a bit. And eventually he thought he saw like a flashlight or something like that. Something flickered in front of him and he wasn't feeling too good, and he's like, okay, maybe it's some fire, maybe I can get something, some warmth. And the flickering was like on top of what felt a little bit like stairs. So he climbed for a while, and after a while he found like a seat that felt really warm, and he thought, you know what, I'm gonna sit over here. And as he did so, his sight returned. He could see everything. Also, the temperature increased, of course, because the fires, but also his body temperature increased, killing all the amoeba inside of his system, making him perfectly healthy again. So there he was, sitting on his own little throne, with no need for glasses anymore. Oops, see, now he has a bubbling cauldron. No need for glasses, he was perfectly fine, and he could now see that he was actually sitting on some type of magical throne. And it turns out that he was now the realm master. I don't know exactly why he said it that way. He was the master of the realm. Never mind though, all of his subjects who hadn't known him yet before today came up, and they greeted him, kind of like what happens when Snow White goes and sings in the forest. All the creatures come to them. In this case, they just came up because he was sitting on a chair, and they were kind of programmed to do that. And he ordered his creatures to get him food and all that sort of thing. And he lived happily ever after, not knowing anything about his previous existence, because that was erased from his memory as soon as he sat down. So, that was that experience. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below, leave your stories below. I'll read out the ones I like, or maybe also the ones I don't like. I probably like all of them anyway, because I like reading other people's stories. Don't worry about that. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and bye bye for now.